Hey guys, welcome back to another Nate Max TV Gathering of Momentum. And today, very, very lucky and blessed to have an independent researcher, writer and presenter, Cullen Smith, on the channel. Now, this guy has been delving deep into the realms of etymology, symbology, times, dates, human health, human psyche, like a broad spectrum researcher who's been putting out some really profound information that has been empowering me and my group of friends. So what I like to do in these interviews is bring people on which I feel will benefit you guys. So the people who are on YouTube watching, jump onto his YouTube channel, which is Lifting the Veil, or go to patriarch.com, okay? And for the people out there who don't know, I have got a podcast channel now, so it's just Nate Max TV. So all these interviews will be on YouTube and podcasts, because we're going to get in today a little bit about censorship and what it's doing to the investigative researchers. We're also going to talk about things like the fires that are happening in California. So there's a lot going on, a lot of talk around the internet at the moment, and there's some interesting coincidences that are happening in amongst global temperatures, in amongst geoengineering, in amongst an agenda which is playing out, which most of you guys are aware of. So we're going to tap on that. We're also going to talk about social media and the double-edged sword. So this is just a few little bits and pieces that we're going to do, but basically I want you guys to get to know Cullen, what he does, why he does it, and where he came from. So then when we come back on and we do another interview, you guys will be like, wow, okay, interesting. And then that information will lead on to another pot of information for the people that he networks with. This is about cross-pollination. It's going to be about human health, the mental status of the world at the moment, and how it's affecting us on a global, but if not cosmic level. So thank you very much, Cullen, for joining us. And yeah, I'd love you just to tell the people a little bit about you and why you are doing what you do and what inspires you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you. I know we've been planning this, for quite some time in the works, and finally situated, the time and the space to be able to sit down and have a discussion. But yeah, what got me on this path is, basically how I started this was around 2012 for me. I've always been a deep student of everything, everything knowledge, everything wisdom. Particularly, I've always been a big proponent of studying ancient sciences, various types of that, but not very in depth. It was always just kind of a hobby of mine. But around 2012, we started getting a lot more of the content coming out on History Channel about the Mayan calendar, end of the world, the apocalypse, which is always looming on the horizon. It's always the end times. The end times are always coming. There's always seemed to be this ominous foreshadowing of something pushing us to fear the end of the world. The end is coming. You have to start, greater and greater anxiety and all of these things. And so, something deep within me really welled up and was like, this is fucking bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. There's got to be so much more to this. And so I finally, made it my prerogative to go out and start, researching things for myself rather than, watching the History Channel. Which it's interesting. It used to have, nothing but war and, actual, supposed history going on. But now what you find on History Channel is nothing but absolute garbage, like, stuff entirely irrelevant to history whatsoever. So, but yeah, that's another story. But yeah, so I started looking into the Mayan calendar, and that's what got me into the ancient stuff. And then I came across all the stuff about the Kali Yugas and the Yuga cycle and the precession of the equinoxes and, the Platonic Great Year. And that's what led me into studying various other sciences that up until that point I was just, thought it was a bunch of garbage, just a bunch of bullshit as far as astrology, numerology, things like that. And so with this new drive, this new compelling to, to figure things out, that really allowed me to see things in a whole new way that I initially just brushed off and I passed off as just a bunch of pseudoscience. And so yeah, that led me on a path of my own research, which started by just accumulating knowledge for roughly about 3 or 4 years of just constant intake, just immersing myself in all different types of philosophies and all different types of traditions, and just taking in what all fits together, all the pieces that fit together within all of those things, because that's what it is. It's, history is just a giant puzzle, and that's what we're now putting together, is we're putting all these pieces back together that have basically just been scrambled. And along the way where that happened exactly was there was supposedly some type of cataclysm that happened in the ancient past, and so we're basically just in the process of recollecting or recollecting, as in remembering, which is a remembering, a coming together of the members of the society, of the members of the nations that have been divided through these specific tactics, these divide and conquer tactics, and these Hegelian dialectics, these dialectics to divide people from other people, to divide languages from other languages, and all of these basically ancient psychological operations used to, to control humanity, basically through the control of perception, which happens through the control of basic information, because people behave and people act based upon what they know. And if what they know is absolute garbage and absolutely false, then the way they will behave is completely erroneous based on that. So it's basically a foundation of knowledge that we have to have in order to do right, in order to behave morally, to understand what actually is moral and what is immoral, to know right from wrong, to know, which is why a right is a right, because it's something that's correct. It is inherent. And so that's how I got into all of this stuff. And I have to give props to basically a good friend of mine, Christopher Lord, at True Theory House of Wisdom on YouTube. He's the one that really turned me on to, well, before that I had found Jordan Maxwell, his research involving language and certain aspects of symbolism. He's always done great, really in-depth research, but there are certain aspects of his research that are really still sort of base level. So there's a much deeper level and a much higher level that things go than he had led me, and that's where my friend Christopher Lord really came in. And when I stumbled across his work was when I was looking into admiralty law and UCC commerce and the whole corruption of the legal system and the legalese and the obfuscation of language and and all of these different aspects, which are all tied into a unified whole of basically corruption of symbolism and language, which corrupts our entire foundational system of education and our legal systems and all of these different aspects of society that are unified into a whole web of, a larger structure of social influence. And so that's basically the biggest thing was my friend Chris. He gave me a foundational understanding of symbolism and language in order to really, it gave me a formula to use that really it just triggered this masterful insight that I've always had within me, but I never knew what it was supposed to be used for. I never knew how to use it myself. And yet I realize now, looking back, that these clues, these signposts, these milestones, these markers for who I am and what I do today have always been within me my entire life, ever since I was a kid. And everyone else around me didn't seem to have the same drive to understand all these type of things. Like, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to understand everything. Why we do the things we do. Why do we have, all these practices that are basically rituals that we do in everyday life? Things like just simple things like the birthday ritual, from things like, every aspect of religion. I grew up a Southern Baptist Christian up until roughly about 4 years ago, when I started unifying this much larger science of astrotheology, and unifying how all the different religions have a common mythology within them, a common theology, which is the study of the stars, the heavens, the microcosm to the macrocosm within the human physiology, and how all of these things are interlinked, they are interconnected, and they are interwoven deeply on a deep level. So when you really understand these things, you no longer identify yourself as a Christian, as a Gnostic, as any of these. I mean, even Gnosticism is it's an offshoot of Christianity, and even Gnosticism, although much more greatly encompassing of all the ancient traditions, I still find a lot of flaws in these many different aspects, these many different ideologies. And so when you identify with any sort of religion, ideology, or philosophy, you're sort of leaving out a much greater aspect that there is to be understood. And so that's basically what it all is. It's all about syncretism, syncretizing, which is the unification of supposedly opposing belief systems, and finding the common ground within these systems. And so it goes on, and I could, sort of just, ramble on and on forever about that. But that's basically what led me to what I do now. And what I do in the most recent years, in this previous year, is I've basically been refining my knowledge, and I've been reiterating the things that I originally got into, but now I'm starting to question even the things that I originally was putting out, and becoming a lot more foundational, a lot more grounded in actual credibility and verifiable facts, and things that you can, no matter what people will criticize you about, you can just absolutely hammer home with mountains of verifiable facts that can back up what you're saying. So that's basically what I do now, is I basically make sure that everything that I put out is verifiable, credible in some way or another. Even if it is speculation and conjecture, it has to be, it has to be based on something that is credible, on something that is falsifiable, meaning that you can verify whether it's actually true or false, which so much of what's going on nowadays, especially in the information and the truth sharing community, is that people are just buying absolutely anything that they hear because it's a good story. It's sensational. People want sensationalism. Everything from UFOs to aliens to, and tying that into the ancient cultures, which is all part of the psychological operation. That's what the Ancient Aliens program is all about. I mean, you think they're going to actually allow some real knowledge and wisdom to be aired on mass mainstream public TV? Do we really think that, they're going to allow accurate, verifiable knowledge to be? No, there's a deeper psychological agenda that's being embedded in there. And how even I'm seeing, especially on Gaia TV, I'm seeing all of this being hammered into people as well, or people, just speaking on what they heard from someone else, and this is what someone told me. He's a whistleblower, so we got to trust our whistleblowers, because we can label anyone as a whistleblower. And of course, when you're a whistleblower, you're someone who has the desire to either want to be heard for some reason or other, whether it's true or not. It has to be based on more than word of mouth. I have this phrase that I like. I just keep hammering this message home, is that hearsay is heresy. I mean, they're not just like, it's not just like a phonetic homonym, it's not just a phonetic resonance. Hearsay is literally a type of heresy. You can never believe what someone says, no matter how true it sounds. It has to be based on something that you can verify for yourself. No matter how much you like the person or you like what they say, I don't care who, likes how much information I put out. If they can't verify it for themselves, they should not be repeating anything that I say. We should not repeat anything that someone says if we can't actually demonstrate that knowledge for ourselves. That's the foundational aspect of, how we maintain credibility, maintain, the sacredness of truth, the upholding the highest aspect of truth. So yeah, I could go on and on about that as well, but that's something I've been wanting to get off my chest for a while. So
That's thank you so much, man. That's a beautiful intro. And like you, and also the Truth Theory guy, there, your information has just like blown my kind of doors open, especially the ones about religion. You know, a lot of that's come up in Australia because of people like Santos Bonacci, and a lot of people get into the astrology side of it. And Australians are starting to come online now, and a lot of people are realizing that the farce of religion. And once they get this information, and once it's been shown to them in such a simple and decompartmentalized way, like you guys put it out there, it's like, okay, you know, the indoctrines have to be pushed aside, and the belief around something has to be then, you know, I suppose followed up with the facts. And these are the facts. This is what's actually going on here. We can prove it. I say to a lot of people in Australia, they're like, oh, what's going on in North Korea? I'm like, no one knows. No one actually knows. It looks like just a big show. It looks like he's a CIA operative or something. It's a movie. It's a set. No one knows if there's missiles flying anywhere. They only have electricity in 2 cities in North Korea. They're Stone Age primitive, and we're worried about, you know, them firing some giant missile across the ocean when we have missile batteries, silos, systems, all this defense capabilities, and America's spending trillions of dollars on war. They could just shoot that thing out of the sky if it came down to that anyway, which is not happening anyhow. So it's like, guys, like, stop buying into the program, stop buying into the agenda. It's really that simple. And then this is like, I'm finding it's a stepping stone. People do jump into spirituality and get caught up in this whole spiritual scenario, and then I suppose they jump out of that. The truth seeking comes in around spirituality and health. They seem to be linked together. People have a health crisis, or they have an awakening. They start having interface with whatever it is they're interfacing with, and then it's like, right, okay, now I've got an identity of being spiritual. Can I move on to that and find the next level of information? And the lifting the veil and Truth Theory, that is the next step. And it's not for everyone, because you need to go through your own stuff first, and then you'll come to this information. You're like, okay, wow, this is blowing my mind away. So I'm finding that like you guys are really like setting a precedent and a pinnacle on what's coming out. And this is blowing apart the narrative, and especially religion. We need to get rid of the religion and get back to unity consciousness, where we're all human beings experiencing stuff. And hey, like, you've got a belief system, I've got a belief system. Let's not fight each other over it. Let's just like come together and talk about it and work out what's actually correct. And it's very similar, actually. I've got a friend of mine who's having a big awakening at the moment, and you know, different religion. I'm not religious, Muslim, and the stuff from spirituality and the Muslim religion is basically intertwined. You know, what they might call it this, we call it that. They have this, we call it that. And it was like, we're going through the process, and it's like, oh man, it's all the same thing, right? It's actually all the same thing.
Yeah, I've got a huge, monumental piece of work that's still, I mean, what I've compiled in my, I haven't done a film presentation on it just because of the sheer magnitude. The scale of it would, I mean, it would take probably years to be able to document all of the things that can be interlaced in there. But I've covered a lot of that. Basically, the main, most important part of that is the human physiology, is that all of these religions are just, they're exoteric, they're outer shells, they're a false facade, they're a scratch on the surface of the deepest truth, which is the esoteric wisdom held within, which means the eso is the within, and the exo means without, the outer shell. So we're referring to the inner house of the temple, the inner holy of holies, as opposed to the exoteric, which is the profane, the one who has not been initiated in these mystery traditions. And even a lot of the mystery traditions themselves, as far as, you know, things like Freemasonry, things like that, they're compartmentalized for a specific reason, to withhold the deepest truths from the seeker, which is the initiate. And they have this hierarchical structure in order to keep the basic core, the basic distilled truth, the simple truth. You know, you have a, you know, think of refining any type of substance. You refine it by raising that substance up, refining it, making it ever more subtle, becoming ever more subtle through the realms, through the layers of density. And so I've covered a lot of that, especially the similarities between all of these religions, whether it's you know, Islam, or whether it's Judaism, or whether it's Christianity, or whether it's Buddhism, or whether it's native shamanism. And all of these traditions, all of these cultures, they all have a root and a common symbolism. They have the common themes, they have the common symbolism. Not only that, they are interlinked through the language, and that's the deepest aspect of it, is the language is symbolism within itself, is a picture tells 1,000 words. So in other words, a picture is a language, it's a pictograph. It tells all of these things. But I've covered a lot of these similarities between all these ancient religions in my full, I wouldn't say it's an ebook article, it's more like an article format. And I've covered a lot of that in the Symbols of Power series as well on my YouTube channel. But all of that is still just a scratch on the surface of what's out there. The article, Secrets of All Religions, on my Patreon page is so a huge, I mean, it's so much deeper, and it's got so many more graphics and so much more symbolism in it.
Amazing.
And even on top of that, I've done so many more mind-blowing graphics conveying the physiology as the temple, the inner temple, the only religion, you know, the word religion comes from Latin religare, which means to bind, to tie, or to yoke, which is the ancient tradition, Hindu tradition of yoga, which means to yoke yourself to the divine. And all of the Christian, you know, novice symbolists will say, you know, yoga is satanic, you're yoking yourself, you're binding yourself to demons. And that's like, oh my God, that's a whole other level of mind control right there, is the demons, the concept of demons. And I mean, I've completely just ripped that shit to shreds in another full article that I've done that I still have yet to get to a full video film presentation on that as well. About, you know, the article title is Demons, Basis, Bias, or BS, Why People Believe in Demons. And I tie into, you know, I have some puns play on words in the title, demonstrable proof, demonstrable, you know, demonstrated, you know, and all of these other root words that are tied into this concept of things that are intangible. The intangible realms are, you know, the things that you can't prove. So therefore it's unfalsifiable. You can't prove whether it's true or not.
Yes. That it's interesting what you said about the religions, but also native shamanism, because I do a bit of work here in Australia with a 72nd generation Navajo Indian, and we're doing sweat lodges at this place, and there was an Aborigine guy, or Origine, like to call them here, because, you know, obviously abstract for non-original, and he jumped into sweat lodge with the Native American guy, and they were both talking stories in this sweat lodge, and the stories were like the same. You know, and like the connection to different star systems and all the rest of it, where they came from, the creator. And like, that was so interesting, seeing these two different tribes, very similar scenarios, different names, like the dream time, as opposed to, you know, their wording for it. And then that does tie in a little bit religion, a little bit with spirituality and all that. And I've just been finding over the last 6 months, like, yeah, these are all the same, you know, we're actually all the same. And then this last Muslim thing for me was like crazy. I was like, so everyone is on the track, but we just need to separate those names and the separation divide. And the whole mind control scenario is running rife. The social media and the news and what they're doing to us, and then you have the religious indoctrination for the first 25 years of people's lives before they start to wake up. That's heavy, especially live in a country where, you know, if you go against it, you're going to have a lot of trouble, and that goes on everywhere. When your parents are indoctrinated, when your grandparents are indoctrinated, it's very difficult for people to snap out of these ways of thinking. But if you can jump onto a YouTube channel and have a full upload of information like you're talking about, that's going to be a catalyst for change in amongst these communities, that they can have their own communities starting up and starting to really break through this, and maybe we can get some clarity on why it's happening. And that's the thing, right? Why have we got religion? Why have we got the mind control? Why have we got the news? And this ties into the larger agenda, doesn't it? The agenda of, let's control the masses, let's feed them enough spew, let's feed them their own spew, so they're constantly regurgitating just absolutely disempowering information. Turn the news on, and we'll watch stuff about rapes, murders, terrorism, how you should get your vaccinations, how fluoride is good for your teeth. We're going to show you Rob the dentist, but we can't show you his face. Like, this is full steam ahead in Australia, and people are buying it, because people in Australia, their religion is sport. Their religion is the pub. It's PAB. It's
ball sport. Yeah, ball sport, coming from, you know, the ancient Semitic roots of Baal, of Bel, of which is Lord, Master.
Yeah.
So it's ball sport, which is the fertility. It's all about fertility, which ultimately is not bad in itself. It's all about the cycles of nature. The two teams. You have the division, which is all about the deity, which is goes back to the demonology, which is the deity is all about the divide, the deva, the deus, the dios, the deos, the word deity, the word God itself, it means two. The word, all of these etymologies and these root words of the symbolism of a deity and theology, it all comes from the aspect of duality, of two, of polarity, which is nothing wrong with that. It's the cycles of nature, the natural aspects of summer versus winter and all of these things. So you have the two teams always, the two corners of boxing, the red and the blue.
Yes.
In every major American sport organization is always all the logos. They're all the red and the blue, divided by the white, the red, white, and blue, which is you have your two aspects that overcome. They battle each other. They fight. One overcomes the other, and so on and so forth forever throughout time. So yeah, all of these things, and yeah, ball sport is. I mean, it comes from ancient times, and every major sport was invented and established by the Freemasons, and this is not a secret. It's not a conspiracy. I mean, you have baseball, you have football. I'm not too sure about soccer, but chess, checkers, cards, the tarot card deck, the modern playing card deck, the 52 cards, the 52 weeks of the year.
Yes.
I mean, it all revolves around the aspects of nature and the wisdom and the cycles of nature itself. But when it's fed to the masses, the masses don't have the esoteric understanding of how it's sacred. It's for them, it's just bread and circus. It's just, buy more shit, consume more shit, battle each other over this. It's literally, it's dangling a carrot in front of the people and, having them, especially, I mean, in mainstream, entertainment culture and mainstream game shows and everything, we're inching ever and ever closer back to our ancient origins of having people fight to the death publicly for a reward, which that reward today is the reward of like $1 million. It's not too far off that people will. I swear, I think I remember recently someone actually posted something about a game show. I think it was in Russia, was actually already doing this. That they were actually already. Yeah, it was basically a version of the Hunger Games, which is where the ultimate agenda is to take us. And in all of these dystopian films like Hunger Games, The Giver, what else? Divergent series, all of these similar post-apocalyptic dystopian future scenarios, they all have a common theme. They're all the same story being told in Maze Runner. They're all the same thing.
Yeah.
They all take place sometime in the distant to near future, and they all take place just after some unknown cataclysmic massive event has occurred, which is what they're trying to program into us subliminally through all the movies and all of this stuff is that, it's end times, apocalypse, something is coming, when apocalypse means apo of calypso, the Apollo and the calypso, the underworld and the sun going through the underworld, and the revealing of the knowledge, the light being concealed, being hidden, and being revealed again through the eclipse, the eclipsis, the apocalypsis of apocalypto, of, and all of this knowledge is encoded in all of these, in the media, in the symbolism and all of these things. It's so vast and so large that, you have to cover this like individually. And that's what I do in all of these articles, is I go through and I just analyze one aspect of it, sync all these things together, break it all, tear it all apart, and show how it all coalesces. But it's too hard to just do an overarching massive theme while still having the depth, diving real deep into proving all these things. But yeah, it is. I mean, it's the ball sport. It's the ball culture, bread and circuses, feeding the masses a bunch of bullshit, distracting them, showing the wisdom right in front of their faces, but yet showing them the exoteric bullshit that they can just consume, and revel in without understanding the deep knowledge held within it.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing with us and toying with us, and it's been working so well. I mean, we're coming into a a reality now where we have the artificial intelligence coming in and technology is getting pretty insane, and they're about to start releasing like good technology because, you know, it's been there for a long time and people are cottoning on to the fact that we shouldn't be using oil. And, you know, there's all types of free energy devices that have been sitting around the patents office. I'm actually in the process of just putting a little hydrogen setup on my bus, you know, and it's just a little project on the side. I put one on my car yesterday, so that's running now, and I'm putting one on my bus which runs half LPG. And I feel like the free energy is also another, free energy is probably not a good word, but let's just say green, clean energy, which can be used for 60 to 100 years without taking stuff out of the ground. And these are all parts of the awakening. These are all parts of the stuff that they're trying to suppress. You know, we had Stanley Meyer in 1960 bring out his hydrogen-powered car, 1960, you know, and everyone's like, oh, we've got this new car. It's running half batteries, half petrol. It's like, batteries? Are we really going to go towards batteries? Nicholas Tesla will be rolling in his grave.
It's like the very first automobiles were electric, running on batteries.
That's right.
It's nothing fucking new. It's the very first automobile designs. I mean, the first cars were electric, ran on batteries. I mean, before, but yeah, exactly like you're saying, oil and combustion technology has always been obsolete, you know, ever since its conception. And I'm sure that it has been well known that it was obsolete, at least by a select few, you know, very intelligent individuals who knew natural science, people like Tesla, Walter Russell, you know, so many others. You know, back at early 1900s was just, I mean, it was a time of giants, of absolute mental giants. I mean, before all this distraction of the Industrial Revolution, which, you know, came the convenience culture, which, you know, and more distractions, which took us away from, you know, the simplicity of life, which allowed for these these absolutely philosophical giants that existed in the early 1900s, at the same time as these extremely, just equally as giant, diabolical fuckers like J.P. Morgan and, you know, and the entire industrial cabal that, you know, that imposed this combustion side of physics that has always been unnecessary. But what I've been talking to people when I describe this to them is the most important aspect of this is the way to evolve consciously is we need to be adopting an economic and a business model that is designed specifically to advance itself so far that it renders itself obsolete. So in other words, if you're a business owner, if you're a giant corporate conglomerate CEO, someone like a J.P. Morgan or like a Rockefeller or any of these other fuckers, you know, or an Elon Musk, you should only be in business in order to advance hone your skill and advance your technology so far that it puts your business out of business. You know, and that's the aspect that we can't come to terms with, because it's an aspect of mortality. It's an aspect of you know, it's like the concept of grasping for this immortality, which ties in with the AI agenda, the artificial agenda of wanting to live forever, of trying to grasp artificial external ways to live forever, when the soul and the spirit itself, the organic technology, is immortal. It already is. It already does live forever. And yet we're trying to invent these surrogate technologies to inject our consciousness, to inject the human spirit, and to try and imbue it, to try and create, you know, our own type of, you know, to basically be our own gods and create our own things, which we are. We are our own. We are creators. We do create things, you know, that can be perceived as, you know, a sort of life. I mean, our very ideas itself, we give life to our ideas and we birth these things into reality through, you know, our inventions, through our creations. But the whole point, the moral foundation that needs to be encompassed in order to have a proper model that's going to work with the unison of nature and with the harmony of, you know, the processes of nature, the forces of nature itself, which is the implosion, the centripetal technologies, you know, the opposite, the inverse side of technology, which allows life to flourish. It brings, you know, it brings harmony to the unified aspects, and things like Victor Schauberger and these other incredibly natural philosophers. I mean, we have to align ourselves with a model that is able to put itself out of business. And, you know, there will always be aspects that you know, professions that we need, things like health, health types of healthcare, holistic healthcare, detoxification, healing, things like that. But the way our current medical system is, it's not doing that. The way our current energy system is, it's not doing that, because these people have vast family investments in these businesses, and so therefore they can't allow it to go out of business. For example, when I've shared all these vast technologies that will render all of these things obsolete, I've been trolled by so many people that are, my husband works in the oil industry, what is he gonna do? Literally people trying to cling to these ancient things that were always obsolete to begin with. They are erroneous technologies, specifically because we have a livelihood to maintain, and that's not how we should be operating. We should be operating, as Bucky Fuller has said, in order, a way for someone can invent something that can render everyone else's job or their career completely obsolete, and we should be embracing that and accepting that. And our current form of science that is based on funds and grants from the government in order to maintain this system of decay and combustion, which is the explosion, the death aspect, the entropic side of physics, which is all about death, combustion, heat, radiation, all these things which bring death. They bring decay. It's the decline, the degradation side of physics. There are two sides of physics, just as there are two polarities to every other side of nature. Chemistry has base and alkaline. Alkaline is healing, as slightly alkaline is healing, while acidic is it's destructive. It's burning, it's destroying. Same thing with, so on and on and on. But we should be adopting a model that renders, our other models obsolete, and adopting a model that is able to adapt itself, for example, which ties into the veganism aspect of health and the food aspect, because same thing with the food industries, and same thing with people's philosophies. We've been eating meat for thousands of years, and it literally is only thousands, tens of thousands, thousands upon thousands of years. But we've been eating millions of years of a plant-based diet of over 150 grams of plants a day, which is insane amounts of plants. Most people are not even getting the minimum recommended amount of fiber, to keep a healthy gut. And to keeping a healthy gut microbiome is what keeps our mind healthy, because it's known as the gut-brain axis. It's what literally feeds and creates all our neurotransmitters in our gut. And not only that, but you get the pathogens and the parasites, inhabiting the gut, which literally send out these neurotransmitters, which literally control your fucking mind. Literally. I mean, this is not sci-fi, although it is, has been played out in sci-fi, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and all of, all concepts of archons, controllers of the mind, the demons are fucking within, and I've covered in all of this in my demonology article as well. The demons are within us. It comes from our gut, which affects our mind, which is why people are perceiving, mental attacks and psychic attacks from demons, because it's inside your body. It's inside the body. So, I mean, all of these things tie together.
And like you ask anyone who's got depression, anxiety, all these scenarios going on, and you go, show us what you're eating. What do you eat? How do you live your life? It's all the same. They're full of conductive heavy metals. They're toxic. They're smashing down the meat and dairy. They haven't done any detoxing their whole lives. They don't know about it. They drink tap water. It's like, I usually say to them, I go, man, you're actually doing pretty well for someone who's been poisoning yourself off for the last 33 years of your life. So I go, you're actually doing pretty well. Then you just tell them, go do a water fast for 10 days. All of a sudden, they're like, yeah, wow. Like, I'm actually starting to feel like a human being again. And that's what I think we're at a point now where it's like, we're relearning the information, like you've been talking about. We're relearning the information. We're gathering our memories. We're putting them back together, and we're trying to work out what pieces of the puzzle fit internally for us. But the health aspect, that's the big thing where we got messed up. Back in the 80s when we were growing up, like, we had processed packaged food coming out, and our parents were like, this is sweet, man. I can just feed the kids really quickly, and I'm going to have more time to do things. It's this more time thing, because when you don't meditate, you have no time. When you meditate, you stretch your timeline and you actually have more time. And so I don't think I ate real food till I was like, I don't know how old. We were eating nummy noodles and things like that. My mum was good. We had good vegetables with some bit of potato and a little bit of meat, like, the standard Australian food, which was great, and always had food on the table. And now it's like, are you still going to eat meat when you know that there's a an energy attached to it, that you're killing an animal, that there's a fear, there's the hormones, there's a GMO. Like it's a very simple topic now with eating meat versus eating organic whole foods. And people like yourself and people out there who are vegan, who are eating these organic raw whole food diets, like, look at them. They're glowing. These people are glowing. They're getting shit done in life. They're sleeping well. They're eating well. They feel good. Everything about them, it oozes of positivity. It oozes of creativity and life and connection to source, connection to whatever it is that we connect to. That's what it's all about. Getting back into that heart, getting back into that divine aspect of balancing the masculine and feminine and coming to that center point. You know, these warrior dudes who are distracted by the football and all these things. Imagine these guys came online and they were fighting for Mother Earth. They were fighting for a new education system, a new financial system. These people were talking about creating sustainable communities in line with books like the Ringing Cedars of Russia and things like that. Merge in the Venus Project, merge in some Earthship scenarios, kind of work all that in together with giant gardens, and let's base everything around what's going to happen in 7 generations' time, like the Native American Indians did. They didn't do a process if that was going to damage or destroy anything for 7 generations. We're going to be lucky if we have our kids growing up in a world where they can see trees, they can swim in the ocean, they can see the Great Barrier Reef. And I'm just finding that's, like, right now for me is a pinnacle time for people to come online, for people to start pushing the truth out there, for people to start gathering together and becoming this unity mindset. Unity mindset is the key to everything here. I also wanted just you, Cullen, to also tell us your thoughts briefly about, because I did speak to this at the start of the show. We have got these fires happening in California, and I am going to switch topics now because this is kind of important. It's kind of hitting the internet a lot. People are talking about frequency weapons, but I think they're missing the point. So basically, for people at home who don't realize what's going on, there's bushfires raging through Cali, and it looks like a bomb's gone off. You know, there's such insane heat and carnage. It looks like someone's dropped a nuke almost, or done something really artificial. But this is really linking in with the geoengineering and the weather modification, isn't it? With the spraying of barium, strontium, aluminium, fibrous particles, and things that are actually getting and embedding themselves into trees. The trees are absorbing them into the pores. And these trees are basically aluminium trees now. These trees are full of so much metal that fires are raging through, and we're seeing temperatures skyrocketing to points we've never seen ever in recorded history. Is that like your feeling on this scenario with the fires?
Yeah, definitely. The downside of social media and especially YouTube is basically the monetization of these social media platforms. So everyone is clamoring and scrambling to, get the first, videos and the first aspect of the news. Oh, the latest event just happened. There's fires in California. Oh, so let's jump on the latest conspiracy bandwagon and start just, throwing all this, conjecture out there. So people aren't actually doing, the due diligence to really figure out what's going on before they jump on and start speaking on such matters, which is why I never do that, specifically, especially about the Las Vegas event, which ties into this as well, and all about I just finished up a huge article about what I call the Phoenix Rising, which seems to be the overarching theme, especially for this year, which this year is the year of the fire rooster, the year 2017, the Chinese and Tibetan zodiac year of the fire rooster, which is an epithet of the phoenix. It's embodying this Phoenix Rising, which, if we look into all of these events that have been occurring, especially this year, it's all about fire. It's everything is about the heating, the fire, which is it's not something bad in and of itself. The fires bring purification and renewal and regeneration and the regrowth of life. But first, they fucking tear everything down. They come through and they destroy everything. But so as far as there's so many conspiracy theories going around about, it's the directed energy weapons that they used on 9/11 to dustify, disintegrate the towers, which did happen. Conclusively, that's been conclusively proven by Dr. Judy Wood. So that is definitely a legitimate thing. However, that's not what's happening here with the fires. It's not to say that couldn't happen, but that's not what's happening here is because I have a friend in Australia, Luke Purins, who has been, throwing all these images out on my feeds about the California fires, and showing these strange-looking photos, very anomalous photos about how buildings are just completely incinerated while the trees right next to them seem to be perfectly fine, as well as the cars around the area. While in certain other photos, the cars are completely melted, the wheels of the cars are melted off, but they're completely reasonable scientific explanations for all of these things. For example, aluminum burns at a much lower temperature than steel does, so of course it's not the actual steel in the car that's being melted, which is a good example of what happened at the ground zero of 9/11.
Right. Yeah.
So the aluminum alloy of the wheels are melting off, and not only that, a lot of these photos that they're showing are coming from years old fires, from years. So that's not to say they couldn't have still been doing that, years ago.
Yep.
But the point is that's not what's happening here, because these aren't your typical fires. A fire, I mean, you talk to any legitimate wildfire firefighter, and they will tell you how insane. I mean, it's absolutely hell on earth to witness these type of events going down, of these wildfires. And that's not to say that they couldn't, that's not to say that they couldn't have been intentionally started, which I feel that they likely have been, specifically because of how they're popping up all over the state of California, seemingly independent fires all at the same time, and then they all join together, and the fire will travel through these wicked winds. But this most recent wildfire, storm has popped up while I was on my way up to Mount Shasta.
Right.
And I had no idea any of this was going on, but during the drive, all of a sudden started being hit by 50-mile-an-hour winds. Like, it was the craziest winds I've ever seen while driving on the highway. I mean, just constant. I was like, what the hell is going on? And so then you see the smoke just absolutely, I mean, looked like a scene from Mad Max, pretty much.
Wow.
I mean, it was just absolutely wicked, the amount of smoke. And so that's when I realized, I was like, oh my God, are there more wildfires going on? I thought we just got through a huge wave of wildfires, which we did. The entire west coast of California was all about the wildfires. But so these fires are extremely hot. They're extremely hot. They burn extremely rapidly. And what can be easily controlled with technology are the winds. The auroral arrays and radio technologies can definitely generate very strong winds. And so you can use these winds, you can direct them in specific directions to basically to steer these fires towards specific areas where you want them, which I found very interesting, because all of Santa Rosa here in California basically looks like Hiroshima. I mean, not all of it, but large parts of it have been completely incinerated. And Santa Rosa, it turns out, is a huge, which I didn't know until recently, is a huge hub for a large aspect of the most prominent and most influential plant-based doctors in the United States, all located here in Santa Rosa. And not only that, they have one of the only healing centers in the world that does medically monitored fasting.
Wow.
And that's, I haven't looked into whether the True North Clinic has actually been burned down, but I think it might have been. I haven't looked into that yet, which I still need to, because my girlfriend, who has breast cancer, has been going to see her doctor there at the True North Clinic.
Amazing.
And she hasn't been doing the fasting protocol yet, but their fasting protocol is monumental. It has very profound healing effects for healing so many different aspects of disease. I found that
again. What's the name of it, so people can look into that?
It's called True North Clinic.
True North Clinic. Cool.
It's headed by Dr. Alan Goldhammer, who is a huge influential name in the plant-based vegan whole foods plant-based diet movement, as well as Dr. Michael Clapper, who has been doing this since the 70s. And I mean, just these guys they're the real deal. I mean, they're not trying to sell you anything. They're not trying to sell supplements. They're not you know, they don't have websites where they're, you know, they're not these fucking Dr. Mercolas or the Dr. Josh Axes. They're not selling you coconut oil on their websites. They're not selling you the
Health Ranger.
you know, they're not selling you these myths about, oh, well, I've got coconut oil on my site, so therefore I'm gonna show you the pseudoscience about how, you know, how oil is healthy and all of the unsaturated fat is good for you. All this bullshit. Like, these guys they're not selling you anything. They're here to specifically to educate with the clinical and nutritional science. So that's a huge thing that I found very suspicious about the whole California wildfire storm here in the Bay Area. But, you know, that's another, could be, you know, it's just very suspicious.
Yes.
But
so with the geoengineering and the winds, for people at home, when we're talking about geoengineering and weather modification, we're talking about spraying fibrous particles in the sky and basically using ion sphere heaters to heat up and excite these particles to manipulate the weather. So that's what's going on in every United Nations country on the planet at the moment. If you're in Australia or any of these countries, Canada, America, have a look, guys. Look at the clouds and then look at the upper atmosphere. You're going to see some smears, some streaks, some lines, and you're going to feel funny when they're doing it. People who are tapped in will notice. If you've got a bit of heavy metal toxicity going on, you'll be ultra sensitive to the frequency, and you actually literally walk outside in these areas and you'll feel frequency. So this is once again back to sovereign health. It's back to detoxing the body, getting all the bits and pieces that shouldn't be in our bodies out through fasting, through zeolites, through whole foods, through plant foods, through sunshine, through yoga, through stretching, through lymphatic drainage, liver, kidneys, gallbones, gallstones, getting rid of the crap out of the colon. It's a lifetime cycle, this fasting and detoxing, and it's a regular thing we should be doing, you know, 4 times a year. Every season there's an organ, there's a thing that we should be doing to work in perpetual balance with the country we're in, with the climatic changes we're in. Certain countries should be doing certain things more often, because if you're not getting the sunshine, then you need to do this. If you're not getting the cold, then you need to be doing this. This is like a practice that we should all be learning, and something that should be in every school, you know, planning food and detoxing and learning how to heal thyself. That's the single most important thing we can learn in school. And I'd really love to see more information about, especially this fasting clinic. That's amazing. That's what we need. Fasting clinic. You can't even sell it because it's like, this is what you do. You know, here's the protocol. Go do it. They can't sell you tablets or pills. It's like, this is what you do. Go home and try it. And I mean, you fast, I fast. People who are healthy, who are fasted, you can't explain what goes on in the physical body until you fast. It's like you just can't explain what's happening, because there's something spiritually going on as well.
Yeah, the important thing is again, this is all what I had a presentation by Dr. Clapper on my channel that I had uploaded recently. Just incredibly influential presentation, roughly about an hour and a half long, but literally everything, I mean, every nutritional health myth completely destroyed, all the aspects about veganism completely bolstered and completely broken down, because he's a biochemist. And
Wow.
And not only that, his background is he was a surgeon, but he went through the mainstream, you know, medical field, and then he realized along the way that, you know, what we're doing, what we're doing, our diet is not right and conducive to the practice that I'm, you know, practicing on my patients. So he adapted his lifestyle to basically to achieve the goals that health and medicine is all about. But I mean, he covers everything from all the micro and macronutrient ratios that you need to get if you're doing a whole foods or a vegan diet, which everyone tries to debunk with the vegan diet. You know, oh, you're lacking K2, oh, you're lacking B12. K2 comes from fermented foods like natto and fermented cabbage and things like that. You're not lacking K2 if you're getting it from the right source. You're not lacking B12, because everyone should be supplementing B12. Meat eaters especially, because they're just as B12 deficient as vegans are. In fact, studies show that vegans have more B12 specifically because they're aware of that, and they're consciously, you know, supplementing that, because, you know, even our animals that we're eating are deficient in B12 because the soil is deficient in B12. But I don't want to get too deep into that. The point that I was making is that Dr. Clapper goes through all of this in that presentation, and it's titled "What I Wish They Had Taught Me in Medical School," and that's something that everyone should watch, because that is a presentation that everyone should watch in frickin' elementary school, because it is so basic, it is so foundational. and yet it's so overlooked. How people don't know this. So that's why I got on this path that I'm on now, is because once I saw this, once I found this, once I learned this, it pissed me off that no one had ever told me these things before. So I knew right then that that was my mission, my purpose in life just ignited within me of that's my purpose, is I have to teach everyone everything that I learned, because no one taught me that when, in school. No one taught me those things, and I wish they fucking had. Like, I wish my parents knew this. I wish they had taught me this from, a young age, because it's what I've always been wanting to learn my whole life. It's all the questions the answers to all the questions that I've had that our parents just brush off. I've covered this in a lot of my other interviews as well, but I want to cover this again, as our parents just brush this off as, when we're 5 years old, we go through that phase of why, and it's kind of like a game. They answer the question, but they don't actually answer the question. Yeah. So you ask, well, why do we do that? And then they're trying to get you to shut up, rather than actually, deeply answering all these questions. But that, it's no fault to them. They don't know the answers to these things. So that's why we have to do all of this, is to get all of this out there. But yeah, back to the wildfires. I mean, this simultaneous theme that I've been wanting to, do a short video presentation on, because I don't want to go too deep into it, because there's a lot to cover there, and basically I haven't had the time with how many presentations I'm trying to get into. But you were talking about the detoxification and the fasting. The one thing is, people do need to have a lot of education on how to properly fast. I mean, people can't just go out and try they can, it's at everyone's discretion, but you want to be very knowledgeable about how to ease into these type of practices, because, if you're too toxic, it can bring up a pretty profound healing crisis for all of these things, So I cover a lot of the huge aspects of the toxicity and food and diet in a major upcoming film presentation that I'm going to do about bioaccumulation and biomagnification of toxins up the food chain, especially in the human body. I've done a recent interview, great talk with a guy I follow on YouTube called Mike the Vegan. He does a great channel, specifically focusing on debunking the health and nutritional science myths. So I had a great discussion with him about the bioaccumulation and biomagnification of toxins up the food chain. And I went into a whole much deeper level of how it affects us socially, and as well as physiologically, and as well as a society as a whole, in this article that I put together called, I forget the title off the top of my head.
We can chuck the link in later anyway. If you
I would like to link that in at the end of the description. But it's all about biomagnification of toxins up the food chain, which over 94% of total human intake of all toxins from all environmental sources, whether it's through shampoo, whether it's through fluoride in toothpaste, fluoride in the water, whether all of these sources combined only come out to 6% on this hand of total human intake of toxins, whereas 94% comes from animal foods alone.
Wow.
All human toxicity comes from animal foods, animal products alone. Everyone's always talking about, it's the pesticides on. If you go vegan, you're gonna be toxified with the pesticides on the plants and the GMOs in the food, and it's all soaking into the soil, and the plants are taking it all up. That accounts for 4% of all human intake of toxins. 94 to 96% comes from animal foods. I mean, incredible. The ratio, sheer scale, it's monumental.
Wow.
And this is what I really rejoiced when I saw that they actually touched on this in the film What the Health.
Yeah, Dick Anderson. I know him from, I got a photo of him at Byron Bay when he came for Cowspiracy. Keep going. Yeah, he's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, I stood up and I was like, yes! Like when I watched it, I was like, thank you! That someone covered accumulation in a documentary film. That's the hugest thing that people have no clue about. Yeah. I mean, even the most health conscious people, they still just they try to battle with me about, like, you know, how toxic, you know, our plants are, when our plants aren't the thing we need to be worried about. If you're worried about toxicity of your environment, you need to be eating as low on the food chain as possible, because that's how you eliminate the biomagnification of toxins. Toxins bioaccumulate within every organism that has fat cells within it, because most of these toxins are fat soluble. There are also water soluble toxins as well, but the thing about the water soluble toxins is they're easily flushed out of the body. They're not stored inside the body because they're water soluble. Therefore, they can be flushed out through water, and they bind to the fiber of the plants that we're eating. So the more fiber we're eating, the more readily we're detoxifying our body.
Right, right.
But yeah, what's the fat cells are what store the toxins, specifically to keep it from disrupting our endocrine organs and our vital internal organs, like the liver, the heart, these internal organs that are crucial. They cannot store these toxins. So the fat cells trap the toxins, and, you know, that's why people get fat, and that's why they get diabetes and all of these things, because their body is trying to protect itself from these, you know, from so much toxicity. So that's the biggest aspect of it.
Yeah, wow. So it's like it's your body's natural defense system, right?
Yeah. Remember, the title of the article is endocrine toxicology.
Endocrine toxicology, right? Beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
and it goes. Yes. And it goes into how it also affects us. You know, this whole aspect of the drastically rising rates of you know, basically the homosexuality and the trans sexuality going on, which is not just basically being bombarded on us through Hollywood media, Hollywood programming, and all these things, and all these social, cultural, social justice psyops that are going on to subvert, you know, people who are actually, you know, legitimately born with these things. But a lot of these people are born this way because it's generational aspects of toxicity which affect the endocrine system, which affects every aspect of our physiology, especially our sexuality.
The hormone balance.
This is very controversial, so I don't want to just scathe over this.
I do talk this, yeah.
Right now, because, you know, it can come across as very, you know, offensive and all these things, but I'm not intending it to be offensive, because if you understand all of this, it's not offensive. It's just the facts of science. And, you know, and the way I portray that in the article, and the way I will portray it in the full upcoming film presentation, will encompass all this so thoroughly that it will explain all of it. But, you know,
where you're going with that one was basically what we're saying is that there is an agenda out there which is divide and separate the families. This goes right to the top, and, you know, it's a global agenda, malnutrition agenda, Agenda 21, all these things. And what it's been happening for people out there who want to get a little bit of information, they can do their own research, is that they're putting estrogen mimickers in our foods, in the plastics, in our water, and what this is doing, it's creating an imbalance in the hormone system. So, and then the triggers that are firing and sending signals are all confused. And so men don't know if they want to be with men or women anymore. We have fish in the ocean which are becoming transsexual, and they're changing from females to males, and vice versa. And I'm not sure if it's vice versa. And so this is going on all levels. And people will get offended a little bit, because if you have basically family who have been eating the same rubbish foods, then generally you have the same problems that get passed on to the children. And then, so it's not a genetic disposition of like DNA. We're actually talking about a genetic eating disorder, a genetic hormone imbalance, a toxification where the mother or the father is passing on toxicity into the womb, into the child, and the child is basically getting these things passed on as soon as they come out. So we've got to look away from the DNA side of it and look into toxicity, health, vitality. I mean, and one massive thing that covers everything, like the meditation, the consciousness, you can shift and change and upgrade your whole entire body by sitting there in silence and drawing in that chi energy and using the meditation. Like if you're not eating as good as you should be, if you step up your meditation, you can actually negate the poor eating in a way through the meditation. The meditation is the most powerful thing that I've ever done in my life. And I know that if I don't do it, my life starts to go into a state of chaos. My morning rituals fall off. My passion for eating good food and things everything starts to drop away, and I start to become a less conscious version of myself just from not doing the meditation. And guys, just so you know, meditation's free. You can do it at home. You can look it up on YouTube how to do it. You don't have to pay anyone. These things that are free, like fasting and meditation, getting out in the sun, getting in the ocean, getting into nature. These are things we have to do as much as we can, because these are the simple solutions to edging our way back into sovereign health. Getting into nature, getting the shoes off, getting that beautiful sun in the morning, the afternoon. Obviously keep away from it in the middle of sun if your skin's getting burnt, but get in the afternoon, get that sun gazing in, get there and sun gaze and get that into your retinas, get that 1400 lumens per day in there to upgrade. Get away from the artificial and synthetic light, the incandescent light bulbs. Get candles, use salt lamps, use the red glasses to create the melatonin response. There's so many things we can do which don't cost a lot of money, which we're not doing. So what I want to say to people out there is do everything you can do as much as possible, and then we'll add the rest of the stuff in. We're going to get rid of the dairy out of our diets. We're going to get rid of the meat out of our diets. And you're going to see, you're going to come online. You're going to feel better. You're going to lose weight. You're not going to be a skinny being. If you want to train and do stuff, you can do that being vegan. It's just about what you eat. It's about retraining the brain into that food paradigm, turning that pyramid upside down, because what we got told at school are 8 servings of carbs and 10 servings of whatever. It's completely ridiculous. It's completely upside down. So now we have to change our thinking upside down and do our own research, because if you're not embodying your information, if you're just looking everywhere and you haven't really embodied it and tried it yourself, it's kind of a half truth. You need to be going there, making the food, eating it and feeling, going, does this work for me? You know, a lot of people can't eat like just non-organic vegan food because the pesticides destroy their stomachs. You know, some people can't tolerate it because they have so much toxicity in there to begin with. So when you have gut problems and things like that happening to start with, you need to head organic, and you need to clear that body out and get it kind of non-toxic. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on simple things of what we can do like now.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean that pretty much covers all of it, and I mean that's why I do, you know, all of these things. I always sit outside whenever I can do it, because I'm sitting here with my, you know, bare feet in the dirt right now, and you know, I'll if I had my way, if I had my choice, I'll usually be sitting out here without a shirt on, which, you know, all is for some reason it offends so many people. I don't know what it is, especially on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook page. Everyone's always giving me shit. You put a shirt on. You know, I'm like, why are all these spiritual people? It's only the spiritual people, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the regular, you know, the bro science types, you know, it doesn't bother them at all. But you know, you get the spiritual people, you know, put a shirt on. You know?
Yeah. I had the same thing, dude. I did a shirt off thing about water filtration, and there's oro minerals that I sell. And I was in my kitchen doing it. It's a hot summer's day. I'm not wearing clothes. I don't wear clothes at the best of times. And I've got these inboxes going, if you want to be credible, then put a shirt on. And then on the other hand, I've got 100 girls going, that's awesome. Like, you know, it's like, that's 22.
Exactly the same with me. They're like, you know, if you want to be credible, I'm like, I don't care about, I'm not into the cult of personality. You know, I'm not into the thing about, you know, sure, I want all of my presentations, all my films, all my videos, everything to be credible. But what determines what something is credible is the information itself. It's not how I look. It's not who I am. This isn't about me. You know, this isn't the Cullen Smith show. That's why my channel's not, you know, it's not about that. That's why I'm not going around doing blogs. And, you know, although I do have a lot of things that I would like to get out, you know, on a day-to-day basis, like that come through my mind that I'm like, oh my God, people need to know this. So I would like to do video logs in between just to cover things that, you know, I don't do in presentations. But, you know, it's all about the cult of personality. People are lost in, you know, how people dress. Oh, is he wearing a suit and a tie? Is that credible?
Yeah.
You know, oh, sure, it looks very professional. Yeah, it looks nice. You know, it looks like what we're used to seeing on mainstream news. But does that mean it's credible?
No. Exactly.
What determines credibility is the weight, the actual information itself. And that's what it's all about. So that's why I don't give a shit, you know, what people tell. And I do. I have a lot of people saying, you know, you do great stuff, but if you just put, you know, if you just dress the part, you know, you don't look so much like a hippie. You know, I'm like, I'm not a hippie. I have long hair, but this is metal long hair. You know, I'm a metalhead. You know, I'm not a hippie.
Yeah, that's such a stereotype, isn't it? You know, like it is. We at a certain bit, I get it. You know, we have to be a little bit like chameleon because we want the mainstream people to come on board too. So that's an interesting thing. I did a business course recently, and you know, the guy's like, if you want to make more sales for women, they have to tie their hair up and wear glasses. because you will make more sales, you know. So but thank you for what you do, Cullen. Like it's really appreciated, and what you are doing is breaking down the walls of what's seen as normal and creating it to be normal. Having an interview of a shirt off, doing things what you want to do, putting information out there, because it's like anyone who has any sort of intellect is going to be like, this guy's the shit. But also, what I want to say to you is people are buying you. I know you don't want to do the Cullen Smith show, but people are actually buying you. They like you as well. The information's great, but if you're some dude, some egotistical wanker, people wouldn't be buying in your stuff and you wouldn't have the following you have. So you got to remember, people actually are looking at you and they're interested in you. So that's something that maybe you should embody too, and just be like, hey, I did create this. I have created this movement. So why wouldn't I put my name out there? Because it's a wholesome, organic, beautiful thing you're doing. And the thing behind that is the intention. And the intention is there. And you can feel that with your words, with your passion, with what you're talking about. There is no ego here. It's just, this is what I'm doing. And I'm putting information out you guys to help you guys, to help benefit the planet. And if I have a better planet, I have a better life. And then we're all going to have a better life. And that's kind of the end goal, isn't it? To have beautiful people living together in harmony, throwing the labels in the bin. I'd love to be able to go down to, I'm at my parents' house now. I'd love to be able to go down the shops and just get some bloody good organic food, but I have to drive half an hour and pay some ridiculous amount. Like, I just want to see a future where there's citrus trees growing in all council areas, there's avocado trees in the parks. We get rid of all these stupid trees that not get rid of, but we replace them as they die off with trees that are much more beneficial than what we're going. Hemp growing everywhere, using hemp byproducts, you know, like water, which has been vortexed and filtered and tensor coiled, coming out, and like, it's not that hard. It's all there. We just need a few decision makers to go, I'm kind of sick of the world burning. I'm sick of seeing my friends and family, my enemies, everyone I know dying of disease and sickness. How can we change that? And this is for people out there who do know politicians, for are in the legal game. Guys, step up. We need you to step up, like set and create a legacy. So when you die, you're like, you look back on your life and you don't have these regrets. People, when they get older, I find it's two things. They get better or they get bitter. Don't be one of those people who gets the age of whatever and you become sick and you start regretting all the stupid decisions you didn't do. I could have done this. I should have done that. I didn't do that. Oh, when it's time. Don't be that guy, man. Be a legend. Step into your power. The warriors out there who are watching the footy, watching the television, we need you to come online, get into health, get into like understanding what's happening in the world so we can fight. We actually have to fight for a little bit. We can't just be in a place of non-reactment. We need to push these things across the line. This non-reactment stuff is almost a program in itself. It's disempowering. It makes people get punched in the back of the head and lay on the ground in a fetal position and suck their thumbs. It's like, step up, people. You know, this is not going to stop if we just do our inner work all the time. I'm just gonna work on myself for a while. Great. What are you doing in the real world? And I mean, beyond the internet. These interviews are empowering, but it's what happens when you guys put the laptop down, you close the laptop, you turn off the iPhone, you go down to the shops. Are you empowering people? Are you whinging every morning and get up going, I'm fucking so tired, man. Oh, this, that, the other, the news. If that shit's going on, then change your thinking. Change what you're doing. Get what you've always done. Do what you've always done. You'll get what you've always gotten. It's a simple verse. I think I actually read it in the Bible. And this is what it's about. The inner work is actually the outer work, and the outer work is the inner work. It's about us going out there, being the expression of truth and love, living by our word, living by our means, and then that will inspire people to be around us. You don't actually have to go out there and protest and do things like that if you're really, really living your truth, because that is enough. People are just inspired by your energy. They just want to be around you. You know this, Cullen. You walk places and people are like, there's something about you. I don't know what it is, but there's something about you. And then next thing you know, you're talking, changing phone numbers, and then fireworks are going off purely through energy, through to the law of attraction. So yeah, thank you so much, Cullen. And can you please just plug your videos, the ones that you would like people to look into, any people who are around you who people should follow, like the guy from Trutheracy, and your latest stuff that's coming out. Tell us about that, and then we'll finish up. And great interview, yeah.
Okay. Basically, the things that I'm sort of most proud of, that I put the most time, the most energy, and the most work into, is my Symbols of Power film series on my channel, as well as on my. I mean, you can find all of my work archived at patreon.com, patreon.com/lifting the veil. That's where I archive all of my stuff, whether it's full film presentations, whether it's just simple, the latest graphic that I've been working on. I like to put together graphics to portray the things that, that are really hard to illustrate just by words alone.
Right.
So, symbols are the most powerful tool for transformation of consciousness. That's why the Egyptians that's why the ancient languages were pictographs, because you could show a picture and you don't have to say a word about it. It just, the image, it triggers the very DNA within you that simply, it's so profound that, just looking at a single image can change your entire outlook of whatever it is that you're observing. So I do images there. I've got like 4 brand new articles that are really, really badass. One touching back onto my very first video that I did about the occulted language, which was all about the truth about English, etymology, phonics, phonetics, and spell casting, which was basically the one that went viral. That's, pretty much where everyone knows me from. It was very short, to the point, but it was very poetic, but it didn't really, it was just a surface, it was an intro level to what I do. And the Symbols of Power presentation series is, that's the core of it. That's like once you really dive into the material that I'm talking about. But so I've already got an article, a sequel presentation written up for that, which is, goes back, touches back into that, because that's what I feel I really need to get back into, because that's what people like the most. That's the most transformative thing, and the thing I liked most is touching on to things that affects people's everyday lives, that they have no clue of, the true influences of what it means, where it comes from, and how it's being used in current times, as opposed to ancient times where it comes from. So I like to show that contrast, and that's what really turns people, on, flips the switch for people, is that's what triggers them to really look deeper into things, and what triggers them to start to want to understand certain things, like occulted knowledge, occulted or hidden aspects of language, of symbolism, of mythology, of theology, all these different, aspects that tie into the very human nature. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is the Symbols of Power series. I had intended to start getting more into the health and nutrition stuff, but I haven't really gotten the time or the space or the energy to be able to touch into that as much as I've wanted to. I've still got the bioaccumulation, the toxicity presentation coming. I've got most of that completed on my hard drive right now. I just haven't been able to finish it up. I've got so many projects that I've gotten like 75% of the way finished on my hard drive. Yeah. And then the next, monumental thing comes along. And so I'm diving deep into that. So I've got all these things that I've started, but I haven't really finished yet. Right, cool. And it's all like, it's literally, there's a reason for that though. There always is, because I find that once, something else comes along, I learned something crucial that, wouldn't have been, a part of the other thing until I found this one thing. So, it's all tying together. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, because there's so much I'm working on right now that it's, it's so much going on, as well as in my personal life, which is why I haven't been active. I haven't uploaded an actual original, video of my own since May, since I did the hydrotherapy presentation, which was great, about the hot and cold, about the utilizing of water every day in your showers or in your sauna at your gym, whatever you can do to utilize the alternating hot and cold temperatures to aid in the physiological processes of the body that maintain balance and homeostasis. But that was a really one of my favorite health presentations that I had been wanting to cover. So I'm glad I got that one out. But there was many other tying presentations that I want to do along with that, such as the bioaccumulation, as well as a lymphatic system presentation in and of itself, going deeper into that. But unfortunately, the lymphatic system presentation got lost on my hard drive while I was using, vast amounts of data for my other film presentations in the works. So I ended up losing that one in the process, which I was really pissed about, because I was almost finished with that one as well. But yeah, that's another thing that sucks, is, you start working on too many things at once, and, you start to kind of lose, you'll lose things along the way. But yeah, I'm also planning on doing, I've been wanting to do live stream hangouts where, where you and your audience can come along and, and add your input, things that you guys have found, as well as, doing Q&A sessions where if you watch some of these presentations and, there's a lot more you want to learn about it, people can ask, throw questions out, that way it's more of like a roundtable discussion rather than just a direct, throwing knowledge at you, because a lot of people get overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge that goes out in my presentations. So I thrive off of feedback. Like I thrive off of people, when someone says something, that's what triggers an epiphany within me. And that's what inspires me to do everything that I do. So without that input, which I haven't been having lately, especially not on my social media, I mean, no one has been throwing out things that inspire me. No one's been throwing out connections that, that trigger further inspiration for further projects. And, and I used to have that all the time, but I don't have that anymore. I wonder why. It seems like, social media and Facebook has really been cracking down on the amount of public reach that my platforms have been getting. So that's another reason why we need to directly, work as a group to basically, to interact with each other.
You literally read my mind. I was just about to tell people. So guys, like every podcast, YouTube and Facebook, I always say tag, post, share, re-like, and people like Cullen who are putting this information out there. And this is the information which is going to change your life. This is the stuff that you're going to read, which is going to create an epiphany in your life. So it's really important that you do actively share. You get on there and you like his clips. You send him comments. Get on there and be active. A lot of people are kind of just scrolling through and flicking through, and we're not being supportive enough for the people who are in amongst our communities. And likes and shares and talking about it and going, oh, you should check this video out. Like I send Cullen's videos about the etymology of alcohol. I send that to a lot of people. There's a lot of videos on there that I send to people because I know they're going to watch it. And if I'm talking about it, then you can be sure that it's decent. Like I don't have people on this show who aren't decent. I don't have decent information. So get onto his page and support him. Get onto his website, look at all his stuff, share it, and really like put some time aside to listen to these videos. So what I do each day or every couple of days, I wake up in the morning, I get a YouTube video on, I push play, and I'll be getting ready, I'll be having breakfast, whatever I'm doing, and I'll be listening and I'm learning, And there's ways to download the YouTube clips also. You can go YouTube downloader, then you can put it on your phone, you can play it anytime you want with Wi-Fi off. So you can go driving, when you're in traffic, put on one of his videos, do clipconverter.com, download his videos, and then you can play it while you're driving and listen and learn, and then you can send it to your friends, and then they can go on his website. This is what it's about, getting this information out, because there is Facebook censorship. In the last couple of years, the reach and the posts and the way things have been going out with the algorithms has completely changed, So I was speaking to Cullen just before we started about the Monsanto March. We were organizing Monsanto marches around the world. Then Facebook decided that Monsanto March was against Facebook privacy. It's because it was starting to blow up globally. People were like cottoning on, and Monsanto had to change their name and basically become Bayer. And that's what they did, because that was the power of the people. We banded together, we ousted, and we called that company on their shit they're doing. So now all we do is we don't buy any products from Bayer. We don't do anything to do with Bayer or any of these big corporations. We work amongst our networks, which is Cullen, which is his stuff, which is people who are doing products locally. So get on there and really share and help, because there's a war on for investigative journalists. There's a war on for whistleblowers. And it's good if we actually even start getting off the social media platforms and finding other ones. There's one called Me, We. I don't know if that's going to take off or not, but it's another platform that we should add ourselves to and suss it out. And if we can get off Facebook, get away from Zuckerberg and the CIA book and start using our own stuff, stop using Messenger too. Download things like Wicker or Signal. Start contacting and communicating off the grid. So then we're not giving the artificial intelligence the information it needs to then use our mega data and sell it, and then basically counter what we're doing, because we're trying to put the information out there. It's trying to slow us down. The inevitable is going to happen. The world's waking up, guys. Whether you like it or not, the world's waking up. And the end story is that we're going to have an amazing planet, but it's just, are they going to stretch the timeline a bit longer and have another 10 years, 5 years, 50 years, whatever of, this bullshit false flag attacks, terrorism, and a financial system that works for nobody and all that. The world's cottoning on to all these scenarios. So the sooner we spread the word, the sooner we talk about it and embody it ourselves, the faster we're going to have a beautiful place for our children to live. We're going to have beautiful food everywhere. We're going to have the falling apart of religion and a world of people who are just unified in the fact that we're human beings. You know, no labels, no ego constructs. And I'm fucking looking forward to that, guys. I really am looking forward to a world that has beautiful, amazing technology with hovering cars, with interdimensional travel. Like, this is at our fingertips. We just need to embrace it, accept the idea that it's happening, and co-create it amongst ourselves. So, yeah, thank you very much, Cullen. Thank you for the amazing interview, and hopefully we can get you back on again. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, yeah, we'll have to do this again within, a short time. Once I get, a lot of these. Actually, I want to let everyone know I'm gonna be off, like completely offline for probably about a month, coming up within the next couple weeks, because I've got a huge work, job that I'm doing. So I'll be off for probably about a month. But I'm trying to get as much out as I can before I go and start that job. And then I'm going to be, and it's really going to financially stabilize me to the point where I'll be able to really up my game to the next level. I'll be able to finally, have a place of my own to settle down and be able to actually focus back on my work again. Which for me, the main thing I'm trying to get done is get my, a real good website going. That way I can archive everything on there. That way I can, not have to outsource my own information to Facebook and to YouTube, and I can just basically archive everything there.
Amazing.
And do it all from there. So that's the main thing that I need to do, and that's what will be coming after, after I'm able to get settled again. So just wanted to put that out there as well. And yeah, but we'll be able to do this again as many times as you want.
Yeah,
I'm pretty much free a lot of the time. And once I get through some of these like real extensive presentations that I want to do, we'll be able to go back and rehash a lot of that information and really dive deeper into a lot of that. And I just haven't released it yet because I want it to be comprehensive before I go and, really dive back into that. So.
Great, man. If we were living in a conscious planet, you'd be getting paid $5,000 a week to do what you do. You should be getting paid by the government to put your information out. That's the type of world that we want to see, where people who are doing things to create change actually get paid, rather than these people living in poverty consciousness for doing so many amazing things, working with kids, working with families, going into hospitals. It's like charity work. It's like, no, that's human being work, man. Charity work, come off of it. Like, where does that come from? So yeah, guys, jump onto Nate Max TV podcast, and if you haven't subscribed to Cullen's channel, Lifting the Veil on YouTube, or get onto his website also. Sign up, get involved, do your thing, and we'll speak to you in shortly. So thank you very much, guys, and we'll speak to you then.
Right.
Bye.